April 8, 1994, Seattle. When forensic pathologist Dr. Hartshorne removed his gloves and began examining the shotgun lying next to Kurt Cobain's body, he encountered the most impossible thing he'd seen in his 30-year career. A weapon handled with bare hands had not a single fingerprint on it, yet Kurt's hands were bare. There was no trace of gloves anywhere. So how had he gripped that shotgun, aimed it at his head, and pulled the trigger? Dr. Hartshorne realized in that moment that this case would challenge everything he thought he knew. The luxury home in Seattle's Lake Washington district was being visited that morning for a routine electrical repair. Electrician Gary Smith was there to install the alarm system that homeowner Kurt Cobain had requested. Smith had been doing electrical work in Seattle for 15 years and was accustomed to working in famous musicians' homes. He'd worked at Pearl Jam members' houses, in Soundgarden studio, and even at Alice in Chains' recording facility. But when he climbed up to the garage of the house at 202 Lake Washington Boulevard that morning, he would encounter the most shocking moment of his life. Gary Smith's schedule that day was routine. Kurt Cobain's manager had called the week before requesting an upgrade to the home's security system. Due to recent security concerns involving Courtney Love and Kurt, a professional alarm system was to be installed. Smith arrived at the house at 8:15 a.m. and climbed up to the room above the garage where the main alarm panel would be installed. When he entered the small room above the garage, the scene he encountered would change his life forever. Kurt Cobain lay on his back, with a Remington 870 shotgun resting on his chest. The rock legend, who was thought to have ended his life with a single shot, was now just evidence in a crime scene. What first caught Smith's attention was the extraordinary orderliness of the room. Nothing was scattered or disorganized. Guitar cases were neatly arranged against the wall. Papers on the desk were in perfect order. It was as if someone had carefully placed everything exactly where it belonged. When Gary Smith looked more closely, the details of Kurt's position began to disturb him even more. His arms lay alongside his body with mathematical precision. His legs extended perfectly parallel. His shoes were tied, his clothes neat. Even his hair appeared remarkably orderly despite the chaos of death. The shotgun rested on his chest at a perfect angle. Though Smith had no expertise in suicide scenes, this image struck him as artificial. In his 15 years working in homes, he'd seen various accidents, but none had ever looked this organized. Another detail that caught Smith's attention was the room's ventilation. The windows were closed, the ventilation system wasn't running, but there was remarkably little gunpowder smell in the room. Firing a powerful weapon like a shotgun in an enclosed space leaves a strong odor. But Smith noted in his later statements that he didn't smell the intense gunpowder scent he would have expected. Smith's 911 call was placed at exactly 8:40 a.m. The phone records clearly captured how shocked his voice sounded. "I'm an electrician here to install an alarm system. I found the homeowner. He's dead. Looks like he shot himself with a shotgun, but something's really strange. Everything's too neat, too clean." The operator asked Smith to remain where he was and not touch anything. This strange feeling stemmed from observations that Smith would detail in his later statements. Detective Cameron and his team from the Seattle Police Department arrived at the scene at 9:10 a.m. Cameron had been working Seattle's homicide desk for 12 years and was experienced with cases involving celebrities. With the rise of the grunge scene, he'd specialized in drug, violence, and suicide cases involving musicians. At first glance, everything seemed clear. Kurt Cobain's recent drug addiction, depression, and erratic behavior had been frequently covered in the media. The suicide note was right there on the desk, but Cameron had learned in his 12 years of experience that seemingly simple cases were sometimes the most complex. Cameron's first instruction was for the scene to be systematically photographed and every detail documented. Police photographer Jim Patterson took a total of 37 photographs that day. 12 of these documented Kurt's position from different angles. In a 2019 retirement interview, Patterson would say, "I've been photographing suicide scenes for 12 years. None of them were ever that orderly. Usually suicide scenes are chaotic. The person struggles in their final moments. The position gets disturbed. But Kurt Cobain's position looked like someone had carefully positioned him." Detective Cameron noticed other details as well. A pen had been carefully placed on top of the suicide note on the desk. The pen's ink hadn't dried, meaning the note had been written recently, but the pen's position was very neat, as if someone had placed it there deliberately. The note itself also seemed strange. The first 3 paragraphs were written in Kurt's known handwriting, but the last 4 lines appeared to be in slightly different handwriting. Dr. Richard Hartshorne, a forensic pathologist who had worked at the King County Medical Examiner's Office for 18 years, was a Harvard Medical School graduate who specialized in the biomechanics and forensic analysis of firearm suicides. After medical school, he'd worked for the FBI for 3 years before moving to Seattle. Over his career, he had examined 847 suicide cases, and in every one there was the same unchanging pattern. The weapon always bore fingerprints of the person who committed suicide. This was an unavoidable physical reality. Dr. Hartshorne's initial examination began at 11:30 a.m. Kurt's body hadn't been moved yet, because Dr. Hartshorne wanted to examine the weapon's position and its relationship to the body in situ. The barrel diameter and wound characteristics of the Remington 870 matched perfectly with the damage to Kurt's head. The weapon was positioned typically for a suicide. Muzzle position, wound angle, weapon's fall location, everything matched a standard suicide scenario. But Dr. Hartshorne's 18 years of experience whispered something else to him: the extraordinary cleanliness of the weapon. Under normal circumstances, a suicide weapon would have blood splatter, tissue fragments, gunpowder residue, and of course, fingerprints. The physiological chaos experienced during suicide would cause various biological materials to contaminate the weapon. But this shotgun looked like a showroom piece. The metal surface was gleaming. Dr. Hartshorne couldn't initially understand why. Perhaps Kurt had consciously cleaned his weapon before the suicide. But why would he do such a thing? And could the cleaning be this perfect? The weapon's transport to the King County Forensic Laboratory was completed at 2:20 p.m. Dr. Hartshorne began preparations for systematic fingerprint analysis. The techniques used in 1994 differed from today's standards, but the basic principles were the same and reliable. 9-hydrin chemical, iodine vapor, silver nitrate solution, and black powder techniques would be used. Each technique could reveal fingerprints of different ages. The first test was conducted on the weapon's grip. The grip was where fingerprints of the person holding the weapon would remain most clearly. Especially the thumb and index fingerprints would be very distinct here. Dr. Hartshorne applied the 9-hydrin chemical and waited 24 hours according to laboratory standards. Ninhydrin would react with amino acids to reveal fingerprints in purple color. The result was shocking. No fingerprints appeared. Perhaps the chemical was old or prepared in the wrong concentration. The test was repeated a second time with fresh chemicals. The result was the same. The trigger mechanism examination was even more critical. The index fingerprint of the person who committed suicide would definitely remain on the trigger. The pressure required to pull the trigger, approximately 5.5 kilograms, would cause the fingerprint to be left very clearly. Dr. Hartshorne used a special fine powder technique for the trigger mechanism. This technique could reveal even microscopic traces. But here too, the result was negative. As a third test, Dr. Hartshorne applied the iodine vapor technique. This technique could reveal fingerprints that were days or even weeks old. The weapon was exposed to iodine vapor in a special chamber and left for 6 hours. The technique would react with fatty acids in fingerprints to create brown traces. The result was again the same. There were no human fingerprints anywhere on the weapon. Dr. Hartshorne was baffled. He had never seen anything like this in his 18-year career. His experience clearly told him this was physically impossible. In suicide cases, 3 minimum types of traces were always found on the weapon: grip marks, grasping the weapon, trigger marks, pulling the trigger, and positioning marks, aiming the weapon. None of these existed in Kurt Cobain's case. To verify the tests, Dr. Hartshorne tried completely different chemical processes. Silver nitrate solution, black powder technique, and state-of-the-art photographic enlargement methods were used. Each test was repeated 3 separate times and verified by different technicians. The result never changed. There were no human fingerprints on the Remington 870. Logically, this could only suggest 2 possibilities. Either Kurt had committed suicide wearing gloves, or he had never touched that weapon. The glove theory was immediately investigated down to the finest detail. Detective Cameron and his team searched the scene, meter by meter a second time. House interior, garden, trash cans, radiator coils, everywhere was checked. No gloves were found anywhere. A detailed forensic examination of Kurt's hands was also conducted. There were no traces of gloves, latex residue, powder residue, rubber particles, or any protective material on his hands. Additionally, the gunshot residue test on his hands came back negative. The gunshot residue test was of critical importance. A person using a firearm, especially a powerful weapon like a shotgun, would definitely have gunpowder residues on their hands. These residues consisted of antimony, lead, and barium particles. None of these particles were present on Kurt's hands. This indicated either that he had used gloves or that he had never fired the weapon. However, if no gloves were found, the second possibility became stronger. Dr. Hartshorne compiled his findings into a comprehensive report on April 12, 1994. His report included these statements. No human fingerprints were found on the weapon. No gunshot residue was found on the deceased's hands. This situation differs significantly from ordinary suicide cases. Additional investigation is recommended. The report was delivered to Detective Cameron, but was not given priority consideration. Media pressure was becoming unbearable. Kurt Cobain's death was making headlines not just locally, but worldwide. CNN, MTV, Rolling Stone, every major media organization had sent reporters to Seattle. The Seattle Police Department was under pressure from Commissioner Watson's directive to close the case quickly. Dr. Hartshorne's problematic report was relegated to secondary importance under this pressure. 5 days after the incident, on April 13, Dr. Hartshorne made an even more significant discovery. While conducting detailed chemical analysis of the weapon, he found a very light but detectable oil layer on the trigger mechanism. This oil was not normal gun cleaning oil or machine oil. Special spectrometric analysis definitively revealed this to be glove powder residue. This finding was extremely critical. Glove powder was a special mixture based on talc mineral, cornstarch, or calcium carbonate used inside latex gloves. This substance was used to keep the hands of glove wearers dry and allow comfortable movement. Finding this substance on the weapon's trigger part definitively showed that someone had used the weapon while wearing gloves. But where were the gloves? And why couldn't they be found at the scene? Had someone taken the gloves? Dr. Hartshorne also formally reported these new and very important findings. This time, he used much clearer and more warning language. Glove powder residue has been definitively detected on the weapon's trigger section. The absence of gloves at the scene strongly suggests this weapon may have been used by another person. The possibility of homicide should be investigated. This second report considerably disturbed Detective Cameron. Cameron requested an official meeting with Dr. Hartshorne on April 15th. Audio recordings of this meeting came to light in Cameron's 2019 retirement interview. Dr. Hartshorne had told Cameron, "I've been seeing suicide cases for 18 years. I've never seen a weapon without fingerprints. This is physically impossible. You can't fire without holding the weapon. If you wear gloves, glove marks remain, glove powder remains, but gloves also remain. Here, there are no gloves, but there is powder. Kurt Cobain didn't use this weapon, someone else did." Cameron's response was cold and determined. "Dr. Hartshorne, you are an excellent forensic pathologist. I am an experienced detective. We have a clear suicide note. Kurt has an extensive drug history. He has a history of depression. He had a suicide attempt in recent weeks. Kurt Cobain committed suicide. There is no other logical explanation. I will file this report, but the case is closed." This conversation was the last time Dr. Hartshorne officially spoke about the Kurt Cobain case. The case was officially closed as definite suicide on April 20th, 1994. Both of Dr. Hartshorne's reports were archived but were never thoroughly examined or shared with the media. The Seattle Police Department had achieved a quick and definitive closure that would satisfy the press and world public opinion. The case was considered closed. However, Dr. Hartshorne continued to keep his copies in accordance with ethical responsibilities. To him, this case was the biggest judicial scandal in forensic history. While physical evidence clearly contradicted suicide and pointed to murder, official authorities ignored the truth for political and media reasons. When he retired in 2010, he took a complete copy of the Kurt Cobain case file to his personal archive. Dr. Hartshorne's 24-year silence was broken in 2018. True crime podcast Unsolved Deaths producers conducted a comprehensive interview with the retired forensic pathologist. Dr. Hartshorne shared these details with the public for the first time. In the interview, he said, "The Kurt Cobain case is the biggest scientific anomaly of my career. Physical evidence clearly contradicts suicide. There's glove powder but no gloves, no fingerprints, no gunshot residue. This points to murder. but nobody wanted to listen. This interview powerfully reignited Kurt Cobain conspiracy theories. Dr. Hartshorne's scientific findings significantly strengthened the murder theory that private detective Tom Grant had been documenting in detail since 1994. Grant was originally hired by Courtney Love to find Kurt, but the evidence he discovered during his own investigation led him to a completely different conclusion. Tom Grant contacted Dr. Hartshorne immediately after hearing the podcast. Grant's own files also contained similar anomalies. Handwriting analysis of the suicide note had produced suspicious results. Especially the last 4 lines seemed to be written in different handwriting. The amount of heroin in Kurt's body, 1.52 milligrams, was 3 times the lethal dose. Someone with this dose couldn't stand up, hold a weapon, or pull a trigger. The collaborative work of Dr. Hartshorne and Grant was extensively featured in the 2020 documentary The Cobain Files. The documentary scientifically examined other anomalies while centering on the fingerprint mystery. The most striking claim was the amount of heroin in Kurt's body should have completely shut down motor functions. Such a person could not hold, aim, and fire a weapon. Independent expert Dr. Cyril Wecht was brought in to verify these claims. Dr. Wecht was a highly experienced forensic pathologist who had worked on famous cases like the JFK assassination, the O.J. Simpson case, and the John Benet Ramsey case. When he examined the Kurt Cobain case, he scientifically fully supported Dr. Hartshorne's findings. Dr. Wecht's 2021 statement was very clear. A person who takes a 1.52 milligram heroin dose becomes unconscious. They completely lose motor control. Such a person cannot hold a weapon or pull a trigger. Additionally, the absence of fingerprints is a serious anomaly with no logical explanation. This case should be reopened. The Seattle Police Department was forced to make a statement in 2021 due to increasing academic and media pressure. The statement included these words: "The Kurt Cobain case was comprehensively examined by the most experienced personnel of the period and concluded as suicide. New theoretical claims do not change this scientific result. However, the fingerprint issue in Dr. Hartshorne's concrete findings were not addressed at all." Dr. Hartshorne passed away in March 2023 at age 78. Before his death, he entrusted the Kurt Cobain case file and his personal research notes to his daughter, Sarah Hartshorne. When Sarah examined her father's private notes, she discovered yet another shocking secret. Dr. Hartshorne had conducted a third test on the weapon in 1994, DNA analysis. These test results were never formalized or even reported to his superiors. The technical details of this test were in her father's private notes. According to DNA test results, alongside Kurt's DNA on the weapon's grip, there was an unidentifiable second DNA sample. This sample was in very small quantity, and a complete genetic profile couldn't be extracted with 1994's limited technology. Dr. Hartshorne had reported this finding, but it was rejected by his superiors as insufficient evidence. Sarah Hartshorne shared these DNA findings with the public in February 2024. She stated that these samples could be re-examined with modern DNA analysis technology and compared with unsolved DNA databases. However, the Seattle Police Department refuses to reopen the materials in evidence storage for testing. With today's technology, the 1994 findings could be completely reanalyzed in new ways. Touch DNA technique can analyze micro-DNA samples that couldn't be detected at the time. Advanced fingerprint techniques can reveal traces invisible to classical methods. Modern spectrometers can even identify the brand of glove powder residues. But Seattle police don't want to reopen the file. Kurt Cobain's fingerprint mystery remains unsolved 30 years later. Dr. Hartshorne's scientific findings clearly show that physical evidence contradicts the suicide theory. The absence of fingerprints on the weapon still cannot be explained. Glove powder residue proves someone used the weapon while wearing gloves. The second DNA sample suggests another person was involved in the incident. When all these anomalies are considered together, they strongly indicate that Kurt Cobain's death was very different from the official explanation. Dr. Hartshorne carried this scientific truth for 30 years. In his final interview before death, he said, "The Kurt Cobain case is proof of how justice is trampled for political reasons. The physical evidence is clear and unambiguous, but nobody wants to see it." The fingerprint mystery has gone down in history as the most concrete and unexplainable anomaly in Kurt Cobain's death. Until this mystery is solved through scientific methods, we will never know what really happened behind one of rock history's greatest losses.